I'm talking with Kiplinger's personal finance editor, David Muhlbaum, who deals with automobiles and all things car. And we're talking about the 9 winter issues that you should face or things that you ought to be thinking about. And we've gone over some of them. But, the point that you just, when we're setting up where we were going now, is it was the tire. Because I've got an old car, as you know, and I think I got 70,000-mile tires. And I'll ask you about that. And I probably, of that 70, I've got 55,000 miles on them. The reason I noticed it is that for the first time, when you're talking about the rain and the leaves, my tire spun a couple of mornings ago. And I was like, as I took off, and of course I was on a macadam, and there were leaves from the rain or whatever, and so I actually lost traction. This is really something, and it's it's alarming because you don't feel so stable when your tires are spinning. That's another one of the points you want to make, right?
Right. Well, it's sort of funny because winter, we think of wet leaves as a classic, slip and fall thing from everything on foot to on bicycle to a car.
Right.
But in a way, it's kind of a warning sign. You get that, jolt of wheel spin on wet leaves, and it makes you realize, hey, when the white stuff comes, we're going to need to deal with this. And so the winter is definitely not a time to have less tread than you should on your tire. Beyond the question of what kind of tire, just the first step is to go out and make sure your tires are not close to worn out. Get ahead of that and replace them before the winter. Realistically, you're not saving that much money by trying to skate a few more extra months. And the way to test it is to take a quarter and stick that quarter upside down between the treads. If George's head gets some coverage, you're good.
Okay.
Now, the old coin was a Lincoln.
Right.
And people would use a Lincoln. They would use a penny. And if Abe's head had some coverage, you were considered okay. Well, the fact is, if Abe's head has coverage, you're right at the legal minimum. And you need to change your tires right then.
Okay.
So we think the quarter is a bit safer.
Right. And so and it gives you a good idea. And, of course, every car dealership, now, whether you believe him or not, not car tire dealer, he'd be glad to tell you whether you need new tires or not. You can get in and ask. I take it and I say to the shop and wash in the Eastern Shore Spurs, I say, check my tires. He'll come back. He says, okay, you got another, X thousand miles on that, we think, or whatever, but be careful. And that's wonderful advice because I'm hearing that, and just while we're on the subject of tires, can tires really last 90,000 miles?
It all depends on how you drive them, but yes. Now, one of the things is that tires wear not just by use, but they wear by age. And so if you have shopped for a tire that has a really long life, you might get that life out of it, but the tire may start to what's called dry rot, and it gets these little cracks in the side, and you may essentially have to replace it because it's too old rather than worn out. Now, and another caution is that those warranties for the really long life, it's hard to get much money out of them because you will receive a prorated amount based on what was supposed to be left that you didn't get.
Okay, and they factor that and figure that in.
Exactly. I don't think that long life is the prime metric when chasing a tire.
And tires are so important. I think, again, my suggestion, David, is stop by and have an expert in a tire shop tell you, because they know what the sidewall should look like or whether it's cracking. They can tell you whether George Washington's head is covered. And, yeah, they're there to sell you tires, but they're not there to rip you off. Most people are going to be fair about it, I think.
Right. Another key thing is they can put it up on the lift, and they can inspect the inside sidewalls for damage, too.
Yeah, which is important. So don't take a chance, folks, with the tires. You're doing 65, 70 miles an hour on this piece of rubber. You want the best rubber that you can have, that you can afford and have on your car. Okay?
Totally agree.